As one of the key aspects of the feature set of the PS5, the Tempest audio engine is Sony's bet on what's next for sound in games. Conceived as the next step in audio processing technology, the engine is meant to give developers easy access to positional 3D audio to help improve player immersion. But does it really work? Audio is extremely difficult to convey through a YouTube video due to the sheer number and variety of audio devices people listen to. This adds to the variables that impacts how people perceive it, as the quality of your device affects how much of the frequency range you're able to experience. So I'm gonna do my best to be as descriptive as possible so that at the very least you get an idea of what I'm talking about. When Sony announced the Tempest audio engine back on that talk Mark Cerny did earlier this year, they were very clear about their intentions with the technology. They set out to revolutionize how audio is processed in games. And with that goal in mind, they scanned thousands of ear canals to find the closest audio profile to match for the best listening experience. The PS5 launched with 5 of these profiles that are set to match the majority of people's ear shapes, but Sony did say they would work on adding more specific profiles down the line. And for now, these profiles are headphones only, with support for TVs and surround sound systems coming at a later date. You can choose from one of these 5 audio profiles in the audio settings menu on the PS5, and they all produce the same sound of water around you. The distance and height of that sound can be perceived different depending on which profile you choose, and it's recommended you choose the one that sounds the closest to your ear level, which in my case would be the third one. With the initial setup out of the way, I booted Miles Morales, which is one of the games I own that supports 3D audio. It's immediately noticeable that the sound overall is a lot punchier than anything available on the PS4. But I couldn't help but get a sense that the soundstage felt muffled compared to other games I played on the PS4, but since I didn't have a frame of reference to compare it to on the PS5, I thought it was just how the audio was designed on that game. It wasn't until I jumped over to Dirt 5, a game I also own on the PC and Xbox Series X, that I noticed something was wrong. If you know a thing or two about audio waveform, you know exactly what happens if you take an audio file that looks like this and crank it up to make it look like this. The before shows an audio file with the full range of frequencies from lows to highs, which results in a more detailed and better sounding audio. The after shows a formless blob with no dynamic range that will amplify and distort the quieter frequencies and absolutely crush the ones that are closer to the ceiling, which results in a muffled sound that lacks detail and fails to reproduce the differences in frequencies. Sadly, that's exactly how Dirt 5 sounds on the PS5. There's no definition between the sounds in the game, resulting in an audio experience that sounds very much one note. When driving past the sound speakers placed on trackside, the music that comes out sounds incredibly boomy and muddy, as if they cranked the lows and mids as far as it could go. Certain sound effects contrast with the rest of the audio almost in a comical way. When driving through puddles in the mud, it almost sounds as if those samples weren't mixed at all. They are by far the best sounding aspect of the game, but they just don't sit with the rest of the mix, which means they stand out in a bad way. And if you don't understand what I mean, imagine having half of the sounds recorded in your bathroom and the remaining recorded in a professional studio. Then put them together without any sort of post-processing, and that's the difference I'm talking about. Of course, I'm exaggerating to make a point, but this should give you an idea of how out of place certain samples sound. The interesting thing is that disabling 3D audio on the PS5 settings menu gets rid of all of these issues. With it on though, the difference in audio quality is night and day when you compare it to the PC and Series X versions. On the other side of the fence, the soundstage is wider with a lot more detail, and it sounds richer and less fatiguing when compared to the distorted mess of the PS5 version. Keep in mind that I'm listening through an Audio-Technica MX50s, which is a fairly neutral pair of headphones, and they're plugged straight into the headphone jack on the controller, which is exactly how I'm listening to the audio on the other platforms as well. This overly compressed audio profile that the PS5 uses also applies to backwards compatible games as well. Gran Turismo Sport, for example, has a noticeable hiss that just isn't present when running the game on the PS4, which is probably a result of compression raising those floor frequencies and making them more noticeable. Of course, there's always the chance that these issues are isolated to these two games in specific, but we're talking about a first-party game here, and that leads me to believe that this is just a result of an implementation in its early days. And the fact that footage captured with a capture card sounds great is even more indication that the issue is indeed with the 3D audio processing implementation than the actual technology behind it. None of that is game-breaking, mind you, and it's something Sony can address with patches and firmware updates, and I do hope they do something about it soon. Still, my first impression with the 3D audio feature was underwhelming, especially given how much emphasis the company put on that aspect of the PS5. It's early days though, and I'm sure things will improve over time. As for the existing games with these issues, developers can just as easily patch improved audio quality into the game, and that's something I would love to see. There's a lot of potential here, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Sony and the developers do with it in the near future. Anyways, that's all I have for this video. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you on the next one. Bye.